Welcome back to the program. You're still watching Daybreak on Trust TV. Now let's talk about what an unforgettable year 2024 has been, or still is, because there is still at least 4 days before we call it a wrap on 2024, but it has given us quite a lot to think about in terms of some of the events that have shaped the polity in this country. So we're going to take some time now to analyze and give some sort of perspective to what some of these developments mean for Nigeria going forward, because you get a sense that some of these issues will spill over to 2025 and beyond, because there are structural issues at play here. And bringing in our guest is a public affairs analyst, a commentator who, you know, has been tracking some of these, if not all of these events that have been the talking point in Nigeria. Mr. Jide Ojo is joining us this beautiful Friday morning. Compliments of the season to you, and thank you so much for stopping by. Yeah, it's good to see you in person.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, first and foremost, let's start from a personal note. How would you describe 2024 from your perspective? What has the year been like for you personally?
You don't want to know.
The one that you can share with the public.
Yeah. You know what? It's been a very tough year. Very, very tough. I told people close to me, I've never been this indebted in all my life.
Right.
Economically, it's very, very tough. I don't want to say bad. It's tough because having to borrow to survive, to meet family needs, it is for me. I've never been this indebted. And when you look at the fact, the consolation I have is it's not peculiar to me. Yeah, quite a number of people
in the same boat
are in the same. In fact, majority of Nigerians are in the same boat with me. Only that some of us, our media appearances, they don't allow people to see beyond the facade. So you receive a lot of SOS, you know. People calling on you to come and bail them out. Oh, please, I've not paid my bills, I'm sick, I'm this, I'm that. Even up to yesterday. And people thought I have, because I need to be personal now. That was the question you asked me. People thought I'm richer than I look. And you know, ladies will say, we don't look like what we go through.
Right. And
that's it for me. Because when life throws you a lemon, you can choose to make a lemonade out of it. And when you are convinced that it's not because you are lazy, that things are the way they are, you take consolation in the fact that the future is brighter and better. And you know, no thanks to the economic policies of this administration, because cost of living a year ago wasn't this high. You could buy stuffs, 10,000 naira, you have 10,000 on a Friday like this. It's like you are very rich. You are still okay. On Christmas Day, I couldn't buy fowl. I couldn't buy chicken. The lady I bought a fowl from last year at 10,000 naira told me this year is 28,000. And I asked myself, must I eat chicken?
Right.
I mean, is it a must? So I just stayed at home and cool off. And that tells a story. When you see food stampedes at venues of food palliative distributions, it resonates, because for Holy Catholic Church, Holy Trinity Catholic Church, my time, I watched a clip where one of the organizers said, the church has been doing same program for over 20 years. They've never recorded a casualty. What's different this year? The number has quadrupled. People usually will ignore, you know, handouts are now embracing it with their full chest. They are now welcoming. In fact, they are looking forward to it. They are demanding it. These are people who are very decent a year ago, who will say, no, I can't, I don't eat too much salt. I don't know whether this food has. When you're president of the Senate, say wherever you see food, eat. It's that bad.
And do you think, while the economic reforms are a big subject matter, that it amounts to a misdiagnosis of the problem on the Tinubu part, or is this symptomatic of us trying to fix the problem? The government trying to fix the problem?
It's both. It's both. There's a popular saying that no pain, no gain. And Mala, let me paint. I'm not a fancy of this administration, and I always call them out. But let's look at the global context. A couple of days back, I was watching CNN. You need to be abreast of development in Germany over issues of rising cost of living, the economy.
Which is something they're not used to, by the way.
No, they're not used to it. Germany is the second largest economy in Europe after UK. But they are struggling. They are calling for elections. The ruling party is in disarray. You know, it was a coalition of sorts, shove. Then move to UK. Why did conservative parties, the Tories, why did they lose? Why did they lose, rather, signally in the July elections? To the extent that they not only lost the control of the parliament, it was their worst performance in 14 years. The Labour Party swept the conservative out of power. They moved to US. If Biden had performed very well, it would have been very easy for the vice president to have issues to campaign upon. And it would have been primarily difficult for Donald Trump to stage a comeback. But people, you know, you want to protect democracy. You are talking about the invasion of Congress on January 6, 2021, and all of that. People say, yeah, we know all of that, but we can't pay our bills. There are no jobs. We can't pay our mortgage. We can't facilitate. Did you know how many millions of students in US that Biden had to cancel their students' loan when they cannot pay back? The US election of November 5, 2024 was determined by the economy. Even when you add immigration to it, it's still economy. Because they are saying, these foreigners have come to take our jobs. We don't even have enough jobs. And these illegal migrants will come. The law says, pay me maybe $15, $20 per hour. These people are ready to take $5 per hour. So they are taking our jobs. I, as a citizen, as a full-blooded American, will not take a job that doesn't pay me the national minimum wage. But these people, because they know their history, they know they are illegal, they are irregular or illegal migrants, they will take the job, and in fact, for less than a quarter of what a full... So, and that's why Donald Trump played on that, apt on that. Oh, these illegal migrants, they are the reason why you don't have jobs. And these people, they have been there for 4 years, they could not provide you, you know, access, you know, affordable electricity, gas, groceries. The rising cost of living was the determinant factor. It wasn't as if this lady did not run a very good campaign. A 90 days campaign that left nothing undone. 500,000 volunteers for, what's her name now? I forgot. Kamala Harris. 500,000 volunteers that were knocking door to door. The same thing Obama did in 2008. She tried to do. She mobilized two former American presidents, Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, to support our campaign. They went around the country, but people still keep asking, what have you got for us in terms of relieving our pains? So when you look at what is happening in Germany, in US, and what happened in Ghana, December 7th,
the NDC returns.
NDC staging a comeback after 8 years. Why? In 2021, Ghana could not service its sovereign debt. Ghana under Nana Akufo-Addo could not service its foreign debt. So they defaulted. And Ghanaians are struggling. In fact, I saw a footage about a week to that election. I saw a footage where young guys were returning rice that were brought by politicians and said, we don't need your rice, we want jobs. I saw it. I don't know whether you did. I saw it. So it tells you how economic meltdown. It may not be at the scale of 2008, but our economic meltdown is determining the barometer of democracy in several countries. And I said, just in my column in The Punch on this Wednesday, 2 days ago, I said, if this 2024 or 2025 January or February were to be an election year in Nigeria, I'm not sure APC will win. Even if they roll out the best rigging machinery. Because people are going to say, we have had enough of you. Recall what happened in 2015. Things were not this bad when it was a case of anybody but Jonathan.
Right.
It was that time, anybody but Jonathan, whether it's Buhari or anybody. But today, see the presidential media chat. What did you take out of that? The president is saying there was no alternative. That he has to do what he has to do. And I'm giving him the benefit of that. He said it's just there for 18 months. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Oh, this reform, there is a lot of growth. It's no longer, it's done with ways and means. It's been able to put $42 billion in the account. Fine. But as a student of economics and a student of politics, there is a professor of development, Dudley Sears. He said, in any society, before you can say that society is developing, you have to look at 3 indicators. What is happening to inflation? What is happening to unemployment? What is happening to poverty? He said, if 2 or 3 of these are on the increase, then there is no development. And what I will say convincingly today on this program is that what we are recording under Tinubu, whatever is statisticians or economic team is telling us, is growth without development. We are recording growth, economic growth. So statistically, you have 42 billion in foreign reserves. You are no longer printing money to pay your bills. You have been able to save trillions in subsidy claims and all of that. But how does that affect you and I, ordinary citizens? Has it made our life better? Can we afford basic necessities of life? What is the value of our currency? The Naira has lost over maybe 500 to 1,000% of its original value in 2023 May. Because when you look at what you buy, the other day I wanted to buy paracetamol. This is a sachet that you buy for 50 naira, 100 naira. Today, that same sachet, one, is now 250. And as just basic as what you use to solve your headache and all of that. From 50 naira, 100 naira to 250 a sachet. And don't talk about other drugs. People who are suffering
medical costs have gone up by at least 150% this year.
So that is to tell you what's the quality of life. What we are recording under this administration is what I call rising higher cost of living. Higher cost of living rather than higher standard of living. If you have higher standard of living, you and I will be able to afford what we could not afford previously. We'll be able to change our cars when the one that we have is giving us issues. We'll be able to move out of our present accommodation if there are issues that the landlord is not fixing. But today, you are even praying that your landlord should not increase further your house rent because the current one you are struggling to pay.
Yeah. Okay. So if we can, contextualize it and maybe zoom out a little bit. I know the economy is a very big talking point for this administration. As you said, is the major determinant of the political atmosphere in top economies in the world. Case in point, the ones you've raised. But also, there is one particular primary issue at play here, and that's security. Mm-hmm. How well did we do on the security front in 2024? Was it a good year in terms of addressing security gaps?
It's a yes or no. Nigeria Bureau of Statistics came out and said Nigerians pay 2.23 trillion for ransom. The
NSA's office refuted those numbers, by the way. They say the numbers are way off.
What is their own number? What number did they bring us? Of course, you should expect them to refute it because it's embarrassing. And I will not be surprised if the Statistician General is removed over this. You recall they were saying they hacked their website
right.
and all of that because it's an unfavorable report to the administration. But let's not hide under the needle. Let's not play the ostrich here. Do you and I, do we feel safer in 2024 than we did in previous years? The answer is in the air. The bottom line is that I will not say the administration has not been doing something, but what they have been doing, they need to redouble. They need to double down on insecurity. Whether you want to admit it or not, I know if this report had come from Amnesty International or Human Rights Watch, they will have said, oh, don't worry, they have a hidden agenda, you know. But coming from National Bureau of Statistics, oh, then they suddenly hacked their website and imputed wrong figure. The bottom line is that ordinary citizens of Nigeria know better. The reason why many people are flying today is not because they have the resources, but because they are apprehensive of being kidnapped. In which case, instead of paying 200,000 for 1 hour flight, you may end up looking for millions to pay kidnappers. The other day, the one House of Assembly member in Anambra was kidnapped. I don't know. They said they saw his car yesterday. We don't know whether he will be rescued alive. So I know every society faces security challenge. Like General Chris Musa said, you know, terrorism is a global phenomenon, and every society has their own fair share of it. But you see, we have an economic push terrorism. Terrorism, as we know it to be, when Boko Haram was, you know, that was ideological terrorism. It was based on, you know, accept my standard of Islam. You know, if you are not practicing Islam the way the Boko Haram adherents want it, then you are not a true Muslim. And that's why, you know, they did not discriminate whether you are a Christian or you are a Muslim. If you don't believe in their own particular philosophy of how to practice Islam, you are a target. But now, what we are seeing in the Northwest is economic push terrorism. Because now, even ordinary citizens could not farm safely on their land. It used to be North Central, so we are talking about Plateau, Benue,
Niger State,
Niger. But today, the almost 2/3 of Northwest, with the exception of Kano and Jigawa, maybe, is the other 5 states are under siege. See the Lakurawa in Sokoto, the Zamfara. I don't know what feasibility study Minister of Solid Mineral had made that says the miners can go back to that they have lifted the ban on mining. But whatever it is, what this tells me is not that the insecurity is based on religious fanaticism or extremism. It is based on economic.
Right.
Economy, the bandits, the bandits, the kidnappers are demanding ransom. And it does not matter to them whether you have or you don't have. It does not matter to them whether you are wretched. I mean, we have seen, and under this administration that is continuing, where bandits will demand access fees from farmers before they can go to their farmers.
Farmers have been levied significantly.
Levied. And when their harvest is ripe, when it is time for harvest, they still demand for harvest fees.
Right.
What I know happen in the Southwest is if you buy a land and you are building, when you want to do foundation, this money will come and collect some money. When you get it to the decking, they come back and say, you give us some. But now in the North, it's about access fees and harvest fees.
Right. So let's talk about another thing, which I think is on the face value a plus. Even though if we get into the details, we might, unearth a lot of other issues. 2024 was the year of the minimum wage negotiations. And after the back and forth, the protests, the different committees, we ended up with 70,000 naira as the new national minimum wage, which for the administration is a very big win. That's more than 100% increase from where we were coming from at 30,000. Where does that stand in your highlights of 2024?
Well, it's a positive development, but if you drill down, you see that it's only the federal government that is largely faithful to that.
And there are a couple of other states also.
Lagos
is paying
largely.
more. Yeah,
I said largely. Because I know about 4 states still went on strike at the beginning of this month on December 1. FCT was one of them, where Labour has said any state that is not yet negotiating or paying the new minimum wage should go on strike. So don't forget the whole argument about this minimum wage. The state said even when 60,000 was put on the table that they cannot pay. And the president went ahead to agree to 70,000 minimum wage. Now, many state governments are crying that over 90% of their resources are going to be used to pay salaries and emoluments of civil servants when they are just like 10% of the population. Because how many people does Kaduna State have is in employment compared to the population of Kaduna State? Perhaps maybe 20,000, maybe 25,000 in a state that have about 5 to 7 million population, if not more. So you could see the lopsidedness that why it may be a good news for the workers, and then you come to the value, purchasing power parity of this naira, of this minimum wage, assuming without considering that all the states and local governments even start to pay. Now, you, by your own admittance earlier, said that naira, what were we discussing when you said 150% devaluation or something? Now, if you have maybe 110% increase in your wages, but the purchasing power parity has lost its value by over 200%, then it pays into insignificance. Because I would rather hand 30,000 and pay 500,000 for a 2-bedroom flat than earning 400,000 and pay 1 million naira for the same size of accommodation in the same location. I don't know whether you are making sense. So when you look at, I listened to the president when he was saying, oh, you know, the national minimum wage is his own way of reducing corruption. And I laughed. I laughed because that is a very pedestrian agreement. When he was laying claim to that his own idea of fighting corruption is not just chasing after thieves, but about new minimum wage, the student loan as fighting corruption. How does that tally? How does paying student loan? It's not grant. You are not giving scholarship. So somebody borrowed money from you to fund his education, and you are saying that will reduce corruption. It will even inspire corruption because he is looking at how does he pay you back. If he doesn't want to default, he has to look for the money whichever way. But having said that, let's come to the brass tack. Minimum wage is good on its face. I mean, things could not have remained the way they were, pre-removal of subsidy. But I tell you for a fee that if the rising cost of living continues to soar, if it continues along this trajectory, and good enough, they have said that the minimum wage negotiation will now be 3 years instead of 5 years. So be rest assured that maybe we'll witness 2 minimum wage approval under this administration before it leaves power, if at all it will leave in 2027. But the sore point, which I need to bring to the fore, is that while many states are struggling to pay, local government is not even in the equation. And then the private sector, how many private sector players are paying the minimum wage? How many of them, except for very less than 30% corporate organizations, for majority of informal sector, those who hire, like all these shopping malls and all of that, are they paying minimum wage even when they have 30, 50
Yeah, I mean,
staff in their
implementation
employment?
has always been a part of the problem. But you know, let's segue into that conversation where you talk about the local government, because this year also, for the most part, is considered a victory for local government autonomy, because
Yes.
we had the Supreme Court verdict and the push by the Tinubu administration to make sure that it does happen. I mean, it has not happened yet, to be honest. But what do you think, you know, we have achieved in this year in talking about reactivating and allowing our local governments to take their rightful place as the third tier of government?
Well, I don't want to be uncharitable to the Tinubu administration, because one of his high points for this year, aside from the minimum wage that we just finished discussing, is the issue of local government autonomy, which we should thank the Supreme Court of Nigeria for helping us to lay that issue to a tentative rest. Maybe it's a kind of respite, because I see that for us to formalize this local government autonomy, we still need to amend our the constitution for it to, particularly Section 162. We still need to, because what the Supreme Court just did was to give its own interpretation of that Section 162, particular sections, subsection 3 and 6 or thereabout. But what will lay that to rest, what will nullify the joint state local government account, JAC, is when the Constitution says so.
Yeah.
Because what the governors could not do now is that the Supreme Court has spoken. Some governors said they were going back to Supreme Court to ask for a review. One of them being Oyo State government. But I think they met a brick wall. So, and you could see that issue of local government autonomy is still being put to test. Look at what just happened a couple of weeks back in Edo State, where a governor is demanding for financial account of local government. You cannot do that in a democracy. No federal government will ask Edo State government to furnish it with its own account. So if you recognize that this is an independent arm of government, why should you be asking local government chairpersons to furnish your office with their audited account? And that is why the local government, the suspended local government chairmen have gone to court now to seek the protection of the court and reinstatement back to their positions, because it does not lie within the powers of a state house of assembly or a state governor to suspend or remove or sack any elected local government. And you could see what happened in the case of Rivers State, when the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission wanted to conduct an election. A faction went to court, got a court injunction to say INEC don't give them voters register, police don't give them security, and they still conducted whatever. Whether you want to call it a sham of an election, it's still an election. Right. And now the Court of Appeal has validated that yes, the Federal High Court erred in law by even giving that judgment. And secondly, that is within the purview of the Rivers State government to conduct its own local government.
Another work in progress, as the case may be, with so many of these developing issues in the polity. Let's talk about what also stands out from this year. It happened in August. It happened in the build-up to the negotiations with the minimum wage issue. But the August protest, the End Bad Governance protest, stands out, reminiscent of what happened in 2020 with the End SARS protest. But this one was telling. A lot of Nigerians did partake in that protest. Where does that rank in your top 10 or top 5 events of the year?
It's a fallout of the economic meltdown. You know, why some
people... You would call it a meltdown or a slowdown?
I don't know whether you want to be economical.
I mean, meltdown is worst case scenario, isn't it?
Is that not what we are facing? I mean, this is, even when we had, when under Buhari they said we were in recession, twice under Buhari, 2016 and about
2017. Yeah.
We were in recession. Were things this expensive? This is a meltdown. Except we want to just be playing the ostrich. It's a complete meltdown for majority, because see, 2 years ago, this administration was talking about, they were talking about, I'm trying to draw a parallel about 133 million Nigerians that are multidimensionally poor. That was MBS in 2022 or thereabout. If that same study were to be taken today, Mala, be rest assured that it will have gone to about 180 million. So what are the indications of meltdown? So let's face our reality. It's a worst case scenario. Even though government, I would say, is not folding its hand, they are initiating different reforms. Of course, that's what battered the restructuring in Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. More people are being given conditional cash transfer. Last 100 billion is voted for in 2025 budget. 100 billion is voted for homegrown school feeding program and all of that. So, but these are palliative. These are just tokenism that doesn't help. That doesn't change your status from being poor. And that's what led to the End Bad Governance protest of August 1 to 10. I recall that I was there physically to discuss that issue on August 1. And you ask yourself, even though government made frantic efforts to avert that dialogue with different stakeholders, youth groups, the traditional rulers, religious leaders, they all were brought on board, appeasement were made and all of that. But the Nigerian youth still went on the street. And while I would say that recorded a modest success because it stampeded federal government into a frenzy of actions. Suddenly the NNPC advertised for jobs, Ministry of Youth Development advertised for empowerment scheme, Ministry of for Communication and Digital Economy. All of them started rolling out one initiative or the other, just to prevent the protest. But some other people call it hunger protest. You saw people carrying frying pan and cooking pots, as a way of demonstrating that. In fact, in Yoruba, we now say being power, and a lot of people are saying, if you say Emilokan, we didn't interrogate the Emilokan philosophy, which means it's our turn. That we should have asked, what exactly is our turn? Is it our turn to be hungry? Is it our turn to witness bad governance and all of that? And you see, it was also in the Southwest, just like it happened under that End Bad Governance protest in the North, which it was more pronounced in the North, particularly Kano, Kaduna, Katsina, Abuja. Now, taking a cue from that, you recall that some youths were calling for regime change. They were waving Russian flag. Some of them, of course, on minors were arrested and brought to court, which is a shame of a nation. But you could see that thereafter, in Oyo State, people were calling for military takeover. Just like September, October, people were calling for military takeover. It was that bad that the Yorubas themselves are saying, no, this is not what we bargained for. This is not what we voted for. And yes, it's one of us, but it should treat us with human kindness. Yeah. And so the End Bad Governance has come. We know the fallout of that. I mean, as a rider to that, we still have Fearless in October, which happened on October 1. But lessons have been learned. I want to believe lessons have been learned. Right. And I hope that by this time next year, hopefully God sparing our life, keeping us in good health, that we will still not be hearing the mega excuses. Because what the administration is saying now is that, look, a lot of our economic reforms, in fact, what Tinubu calls is economic restructuring, that a lot of that is inchoate, and that given a little more time, things are going to shape up and we'll start seeing the benefit. All
right, finally now, in a minute, if you can, let's talk about one of the, I would consider this a positive highlight, the Dangote refinery, the Port Harcourt refinery. I mean, Nigerians were paying more than what they currently pay for PMS. So I suppose that is a positive sign. That is a positive way to end the year. But what are your thoughts about the Dangote refinery coming on stream? The whole 180 turnaround in terms of petroleum products import switching to domestic production as well as domestic distribution. What are your thoughts about that being one of the biggest talking points of the year?
That again, that is the number 3 things that that will count as positive in 2023. Apart from minimum wage, then the other issue we talked about, local government autonomy. This is the talk. It's heartwarming that Dangote eventually. Don't forget, Dangote was commissioned. The refinery was commissioned on May 24, 2023, but it was not functional until February 2024. And now it has consolidated. It's now producing PMS, producing diesel, producing Jet A1, that's aviation fuel. And what we have not seen is substantial reduction in the cost, because it went as far as the pricing went as far as 1,050, 1,069 in Abuja. And even with the best of intention, where we now have a reduction by, I think 2 days ago, they said now at 35 naira. Yeah. I've not been able to buy for 935. The last I bought was 1,050. But what I'm saying is that it's a positive development because it will encourage more. And I believe a couple of modular refineries are coming on stream in 2025. The one by Bua in Akwa Ibom, I believe maybe it will come on stream next year. And hoping that the bigger Port Harcourt refinery, the one of 150,000 barrels per day refining capacity, will also come on. Because the one we are celebrating for Port Harcourt is the 60,000 barrel per day, which was the old Port Harcourt, which was built in 1965. So the one that was built in 1989 or thereabout is still on the works. But again, maybe there will be a contrary review, because $1.5 billion was earmarked some 2-3 years ago, and I don't know. But whatever it takes, if that's 150,000 barrels per day can start production with Dangote and maybe a couple of modular refineries, maybe the price will come down to like 500 naira per liter, and then that will push down the cost of living. Okay. And I believe that was part of the reason the administration benchmarked that inflation would drop from 34% to 15% in 2025. That is rather being too optimistic, but we hope it happens that way. Okay,
it's nice to end on a cautiously optimistic note with Mr. Jide, just because sometimes the analysis could be quite bleak, to say the least. Mr. Jide, just thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about what a year 2024 has been. At least we provided some snapshot analysis for our viewers this morning. Thank you so much for taking the time.
It's a pleasure. We hope to see you again in 2025.
Exactly. Inshallah. Yeah, God willing. All right, up next, we take a look at the front pages of some select national dailies and the stories making the rounds. Newspaper review is up next.